So, continuing on from the story I told about getting my Wii, I ended up having a lot of games for the Wii. Like, look over my shoulder. See all those Wii games? Yeah, those are all my childhood Wii games. It was a lot of fun, but the big problem was I was never very good at video games. You could argue I'm still not. Like, I grew up with New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and this was well before my completionist phase, and yet I never remember making it past the second world. In fact, based on the save data still on my Wii, nobody in my family ever made it past World 3, and we had pitifully few lives. So I'm probably not qualified to review video games, which makes me perfect for games journalism. You know, I'm curious when Nintendo fired their naming expert, because clearly it was sometime around 2009. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, the sequel to New Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Wii. The new title still kind of makes sense, as it is still the first 2D Mario on console since around '96. It released in late 2009, and when an Australian guy bought it a little bit before release and uploaded it online, Nintendo sued him, and he was fined almost $1.5 million Australian dollars. You know, suddenly I understand the whole "it is always morally correct to pirate Nintendo games" meme. So the story here is, on Peach's birthday, a cake is delivered to her castle, which secretly contains Bowser Jr. and the Koopalings, making their return for Mario 3 in World. They use the cake to kidnap Peach, and they escape via airship. The only ones who can stop them are Mario, Luigi, and 2 random toads. Not even the classic red-spotted toad like in Mario 2, just a generic blue and yellow toad. And as the 4 of them run off, the castle's toads fire off new power-ups via cannon. You know, I appreciate the help, guys, but I think it would have been more helpful if you, I don't know, used it as a cannon! There's really not a lot of story to this game. The only real factor is the return of the Koopalings, who also serve as the game's bosses. All of them. Seriously, this game has a total of 19 boss fights, of which 14 are the Koopalings. You fight all of them twice, once as a mid-boss and again as a world boss. They aren't the exact same fights, of course. The second battle is spiced up by Kamek doing his magic thing, like with Yoshi's Island, but instead of making them bigger, he just sort of changes the terrain. So basically, there are no original boss fights, compared to New Mario, where 6 out of the 8 worlds have actually unique 2D boss fights. Here, it's just the Koopalings, Bowser Jr., and Bowser. There's one boss fight with Kamek, to be fair, which is kind of original, and some of the Bowser Jr. fights are fun, but, like, there is no originality in the boss fights or the story. In other breaking news, Smash Bros. Brawl is slow, Mario and Sonic is unsubstantial, and Sonic has had a rough history since his jump to 3D. Yes, everyone knows that originality is the biggest problem with the new sub-series, and that's especially obvious with the game's presentation. Now, to be fair, the game looks better than the first New Mario. Just about everything is a 3D model, and the graphics are obviously a lot clearer than they were on the DS. The game looks decent, it just lacks any actual identity. The models are just about the same as in Mario Galaxy, with anything not in that game being based on their appearance in New Mario, but without the funky DS graphics or the outer space setting, there's nothing actually unique to this game's visuals. I mean, look at the world themes. Grassland, desert, ice, ocean, jungle. We have a world set on a few rocky mountains that just so happen to include 2 water levels for some reason. The game's sound is taken straight from its predecessor, though to be fair, the soundtrack is remixed. Slightly. Yeah, even when this released, it was basically just another Mario game, and that was before it got its own sequels. Though to be fair, the other games didn't have as much bumping involved. Yes, the big selling point of New Mario Wii is multiplayer. The game has co-op with up to 4 different players. Let's move on. Well, the game controls well enough. It can be played with the Wiimote on its side, similar to the NES controller, or with a nunchuck, which is kinda sorta completely pointless. Honestly, the Wiimote on its side is just fine. There's nothing bad about the control layout here. You run with a 1 button, jump with a 2 button, move with a D-pad, completely fine. However, New Mario Wii has one specific utility that you use throughout the game, carried straight over from Mario Galaxy, the spin jump. Sort of. In mid-air, it's more of a twirl, but it can activate certain power-ups. This ability is activated by shaking the Wiimote, because Nintendo loves its gimmicks. It's fine, I don't mind it. It just feels like they only did it because there weren't a ton of buttons on the controller. What I do mind are the occasional motion control gimmicks sprinkled throughout random stages. So, across the levels, a few select objects require tilting the Wiimote in order to move them. Why?
These aren't all terrible, some of these are kind of engaging, but my lord are none of these necessary. It just feels like they're trying to trick you into thinking the Wiimote's motion controls are actually useful.
And like, were they ever useful? Or cool? Or good?
At least the power-ups are better this time around. We have the returning Fire Flower, Superstar, and Super Mushroom, of course, plus the Mini Mushroom from New Mario. Yoshi also makes his return with both the eating enemies from Mario World and the Flutter Jump from the Yoshi series. Though he can't be brought between levels anymore, which is kinda lame. It's fine, the levels he's in are clearly the ones built around him, but it's just a buzzkill that we finally get Yoshi back into 2D Mario and do barely get to use him. And finally, for the returning power-ups, we have the Ice Flower, similar to Mario Galaxy, though here it's a lot closer to the traditional Fire Flower. Once you get it, you can shoot freezing ice balls, which is very useful as you can use frozen enemies as platforms, or if they're small enough, pick them up and throw them around. You can even freeze piranha plants and ground pound them, which is fun. However, thanks to those useless cannoneers, we have two brand new power-ups, the Penguin Suit and the Propeller Mushroom. The Penguin Suit is probably one of the rarest items in the game, and it lets you shoot ice balls like the Ice Flower, break bricks on the ground with the Blue Shell, and swim through the water like the Frog Suit. And you can actually access it without relying on complete random chance. And finally, the Propeller Mushroom, which lets you fly by shaking the Wiimote, and that's about it.
I mean, it's better than the Mega Mushroom at least.
Ultimately, the game isn't terrible. I think the level design is better than New Mario, though I do think the difficulty is a bit inconsistent. If you're just trying to beat the game without going for completion, it's more than easy enough. But if you're actually trying to get all the star coins, say hello to the bottomless pits. But hey, there are more original ideas than the DS game, and even if I didn't get to try out the co-op mode, it's still cool that they included it. I remember playing with my brother as a kid, and that was really cool, being able to play a new Mario game together. But ultimately, do a few cool ideas for levels and optional co-op make the game that much better? I don't know.
This isn't a bad game by any means. I think it's more than decent. It's just not terribly exciting. I prefer it to its predecessor, to be sure, but given that was one of my least favorite games thus far, it's not really saying much. I don't hate New Mario Wii, but I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't think young me was missing out on much only playing the World 2. There's really not much point to playing this game nowadays. Unless you're into pointless motion controls, then 9 out of 10 must play on the Wii.